I found myself out there after graduating college, and I sort of stretched the truth a little to my parents about why I wanted to go to Seattle. But it was really kind of a finding myself journey, and I just remember also the feeling of being in love and wanting to have a first time with someone that I thought loved me as well. I turned out to be wrong about that, which is part of also why I'm still a little raw. It was very painful when I found out the truth later, but at the time it was everything. And there were so many things about this film that just struck me on a very personal and deep level. The very idea of, you have kind of the two opposing camps of approaching sexuality with adults on the autism spectrum. You have Gabrielle's sister, Sophie, who wants to address it, let's deal with it, let's be proactive. Then you have Martin's mother, who wants to bury her head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. That's, I don't think, ever the answer, obviously. It can be difficult for people to want to talk about that because a lot of people don't want to think that if you're on the spectrum of autism, you have sexual feelings, desires, thoughts, but we very much do, just like everyone else. And at the end, when we see them making love there, it looks just like anyone else making love. You're not seeing two people with disabilities making love, you're seeing two people making love. And in the end, all of that is kind of, it's not necessarily gone, but it's stripped down very bare to this simple thing. And it just takes me back to, the memory of my first time as well. I planned it very carefully. I could never have done it quite so spontaneously like that. I'm much too. I told him specifically to wear a button-down shirt because I had a specific fantasy about wanting to unbutton a man's shirt. I selected the CD, the exact music I wanted for when we would begin making out. I had a bottle of wine chosen, and I had decided. I thought to myself, I've never done this before, and he has, and I want to know how to improve for the future. And when you go to restaurants or hotels, you see those comment cards, that you can fill out to report on how the service was. So I created a sexual intercourse comment card, which to me was perfectly logical. And I still have copies of it. I still have it. And he did fill it out. It was basically asking information about the quality of the sounds that I made, my outfit, creating intercourse. And what really made it so remarkable was that the course of action proceeded as you would expect, and we ended up in the bedroom. And then I wound up actually putting on a cheerleader uniform because he was having some difficulty continuing. And I knew he liked cheerleaders, so I had bought a University of Washington Huskies uniform. And it was actually a child size because I was very small back then. I'm not much bigger now, but it was actually a girl size, and it fit me. And but I have since burned it because it turned out, I learned later, it turned out that he had a girlfriend the whole time, and he lied to me, and he was sleeping with half town. And so I'm trying to hold in my emotions right now because this really brought me back to that time, and it was a very difficult experience to go through, but it was an important experience to go through. And what's important is that we people on the spectrum, we get to have these experiences like everyone else, in our way, in our time, when we are ready. Was it an ideal circumstance? Maybe not, but it was me living my life in the way that I needed to. And I, very much like Gabrielle, I knew about condoms. I went and got on the birth control pill. I waited a full month till after I had started the pill to make sure that I was fully prepared. I wanted to be ready. But the thing I discovered when it finally happened is that I wasn't ready. Not in the way, you can plan as much as you want, but when you're lying there and there's a wall of torso in your face and you just start thinking about, who's the guest on the Daily Show tonight, because you just want to forget about all the excruciating pain you're in because nobody told you that, it's going to be that way. And so the romance kind of goes pretty quickly at that point, but the fact was that I was still in love, and I learned from being in love, and this reminded me of that very much. So.
Wow.
Thank you. I do have a question, actually. It's a tough one.
Parents.
Yes.
What should parents do? What would you have liked your parents to do?
Well, honestly, there wasn't much my parents could do. Again, they were 3,000 miles away, and I did call my mother the next morning and tell her what had happened. I was very eager to report the news. I actually opened the window after it happened, and he went into the bathroom to wash up, and I opened it at 2 in the morning and screamed out the window, "I am no longer a virgin, do you hear that, Seattle?" But, my parents, there was, when I was growing up, there was so much else that we had to address with my being on the spectrum, all the difficulties in school, my being bullied, and my social difficulties, my sensory issues. We never had the talk. We never had, and so it never really got addressed. And I know that they were there for me, and my mother, I'm sure, must have given her a heart attack to get that phone call. I look back and I can't imagine what it was like being in her shoes, but just to know that she was there. If you're a parent and your kid is you've created enough of a relationship that they can call you and tell you that's a good parent. So just being there and trying to reserve your own personal judgment about what you think is right, because they're going to have a different idea, I guarantee you, of what they think is right versus what you think is right for them. So I'd say, you can express your opinion too, but don't disregard theirs and think that you know better because you're not on the spectrum and they are. So.
I'm going to ask one more question, then we'll open it to you. I know all my knowledge of the world in general through film, and we had one great film here at the submitted to ReelAbilities, which was took place in Italy. And in Italy, it seems that people with disabilities, with developmental disabilities, are considered minors as far as sexuality goes. What would be your comment to that?
That's very interesting. You mean legally they're considered?
Legally minors. So basically, if they would have intercourse with someone who is not with a disability, I really don't know the specifics of the law, but yes, it would be as if they basically in Italy say to you, sleeping with the person with the developmental disability is illegal.
I think it's very unfair to infantilize people with disabilities. You often hear, well, he's 25 years old, but he has the mind of a child. No, he has the mind of a 25-year-old with his disability. There's a difference. And I think it removes the opportunity for a lot of people with disabilities to be like their neurotypical counterparts and have a chance to experience things. And it also creates a stigma as well. If you're going to call them minors, if you're going to remove their agency as adults, as human beings, it creates a further stigma. And it makes it harder for them to live in the world and experience things the way that other people do.
Thank you. Let's open it up to just a few questions from you guys, because I think you earned the right.
Hi. I guess I'm asking you this question from the vantage point of a parent. It didn't sound as if your first experience and happily ever after, hardly. Right, and I'm sure, seeing it from your mother's vantage point, that she was terribly in pain, at your pain. And by your own admission, you may have misread, certainly being on the spectrum, you may have misread some social cues that this guy who was a philanderer, yeah.
Putz, you can say putz.
Schmuck.
Yeah.
Right. But of course, there are people who are not on this spectrum who also misread social cues. However, that being said, I would think the likelihood may be more so. And what is a parent to do if you see your child and they're in a relationship that may in fact pain that person like it did you? That's something to consider from the parent's point of view.
You mean if they're in a relationship that you think will cause them pain?
That won't be reciprocal.
Right. Well, it can be very hard. There was no way that anyone on earth could talk me out of feeling how I felt about him. I would talk to my friends back east, and they would say, "Oh, I don't know, but this doesn't sound..." And I'd think, "Oh, well, you're all the way over in New York. How can you possibly know? You've never met him." I truly believe that there was no way that they could understand what was going on, and that I had the better perspective because I was actually there in person. Of course, in retrospect, they did. They saw the warning signals, and I didn't. because I was in love and I had those colored glasses on. I would say, of course, nobody wants to go through pain. Nobody wants to see someone they love go through pain. And it's certainly not such a severe pain as I went through. But it is part of the learning experience too. You can't, you can't move forward and you can't have that new knowledge of what not to do in the future if you don't make the mistake first. So I guess the best thing you can do is just try to make sure they don't make too catastrophic of a mistake and be there when the fallout happens and be there for them.
Just for that. I think it's the same you would do for a child without a disability.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. No, I know that. If you have a child who does not have any kind of autism spectrum problem, then of course they're also liable for a problem. However, there is a greater likelihood of this reading social, and that aspect makes me feel that a parent would be more protective.
Oh yes, well, my parents were very overprotective, but they couldn't in the end stop me from making my own mistakes and falling down and getting back up again.
As long as you got up.
I did.
Good.
Folks, we're going to take one more question over here.
Not a question, and I don't want to attack. I'm not a parent, but watching my parents address this with a sibling who's not on the spectrum and intelligent, a physician, and watch the rose-colored glasses on him, and he's in love, and the mistakes he makes, and is still making, and how painful it is for them to go through that, and he's nowhere on the spectrum. So I think it's a parent-child interaction, and I just kudos to you for picking yourself up, and it sounds like
it's really made me realize I had strength in me I didn't know I had, because I really would have thought I would have been ripped apart by it, and then I was, but I got through it. Here I am, and so it didn't knock me down. So,
Well, I had no idea what I was getting into here, but these are the late night screenings at the JCC, part of ReelAbilities. Thank you so much. This was really fantastic. And the film, by the way, I hope, I mean, it's really, I think you don't have to be specifically connected. I think it really speaks to absolutely everyone who's ever been in a relationship and beyond. And it does just a fantastic job. And I'll note also that it's a wonderful film that uses someone with Williams syndrome as the lead actress, which is, of course, something that you don't always see. It's good to see. It's refreshing to see. They're not using, like, Dustin Hoffman to play the lead. So kudos to the film as well.
Was he also
Yes.
What did you say? What name did you give her?
Williams syndrome. Williams syndrome.
What is it? Developmental disability.
yeah.
On the spectrum, I recommend speaking to Hannah Kaplan-Cohen here at the JCC, who's an expert on the topic. Thank you all for being with us. We're here till Tuesday night to help spread the word. Tomorrow's a big day, and we look forward to seeing you at more screenings. Thank you so much.
Thank you.